Hello students, welcome you all to VisionQ YouTube channel. So I have been discussing a series of maths, which is important for all the examination, including APSC, SSC, banking plus all other central and state level exam. So I am bringing here to you the next part of the chapter of problems on ages, as you are seeing in this board, which is of part 2 and it consists of basic to high level questions. So please do watch the first part of this video, first part of this series. The name of this topic is Problems on Ages, where I have discussed in details the concept and the logic behind to solve some special type of questions. And if you are new to our channel, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more such videos which are very important for all types of examination. So let us start the video today and discuss the first question of this video, which consists from question number 1 and end till question number 11. So let us see the first question of today's series, question number 1. So it is given that ratio of the present age of A to B is 4:3. Next it is given if C is 4 years younger to B and difference between the present age of A and B is 4 years, then what is the age of C 10 years hence? That means it is asked to find out the age of C after 10 years. Now, as I have already said in the first part of this video, first part of this chapter, the link of which you will get in the description box, that this topic is an application of ratio. So students, please do watch the first 2 parts of ratio and then you can watch the topic of ages and then watch this video to make the concepts clear of this topic. So if you see this question, यहाँ पे आपको दिया है ratio of the age of A to B is 4:3. So what is given here? A is to B. The ratio of A is to B is 4:3. Next it is given that C is 4 years younger to B. That means I can say B is elder to C, isn't it? B is elder to C by 4 years. So B minus C is 4 years. After that, difference between the present age of A and B is given to be 4 years. That is, out of A and B, I should know who is elder. So if A's age is 4 years, then B's age is 3 years. That means I can say A is elder than B. So it is given A minus B is equal to 4 years. So it is asked to find out the age of C 10 years hence. Now, if I see these 3 given conditions very carefully, I will see here that it is given A is to B. It is again given A minus B. So A minus B will be 1 year as per ratio, isn't it? And in the question, this difference is given to be how many years? 4 years. So 1 will represent 4 years. If 1 represents 4 years, I can find out the age of A and the age of B. So age of A will be 4. So 4 represents 4 into 4, which is 16 years. So this is the age of A. And 3 will represent how much? 3 represents 3 into 4, which is 12 years. So this is the age of B. Now it is asked to find out C's age 10 years hence. That means C's age after 10 years in the future. Now let me first find out the present age of C. So if I see here, B minus C is 4 years, isn't it? That means it is already given. C is 4 years younger to B. So if B's age is 12 years, then C's age will be how many years? 12 minus 4 years, isn't it? So C's age will be 8 years. Because it is given that C is 4 years younger to B. Now it is asked to find out the age of C after 10 years. To find out the age of C after 10 years, what to do? Simply add 10 with this number. So 8 plus 10 gives how many years? 18 years. So the answer of this question is option number C, which is 18 years. So this was the first question of the topic of ages, a very important concept of this chapter. So students, please do watch this video from starting till the end because I will be discussing here very important questions. And if you see these questions very carefully, I will say you that the concept will be clear of this topic of ages. You can solve any question from this topic. So let us see the next question of this series, question number 2. Okay, Hitesh is 40 years old and Ronnie is 60 years old. How many years ago was the ratio of their ages? 3:5. Okay. Now there are two persons here, Hitesh and Ronnie. Okay. So Hitesh's age is 40 years and Ronnie's age is 60 years. Now, if I want to solve this applying the basic method, okay, applying the basic method using X, okay, how to solve this question? How many years ago was the ratio of their ages? How much? 3:5. So let me take, suppose X years ago the ratio was 3:5. So let me find out their ages X years ago, isn't it? So X years ago, okay, X years ago, that means in the past, Hitesh's age was how much? 40 minus X. And Ronnie's age was how much? 60 minus X. That is X years ago in the past. Now X years ago the ratio of their ages was 3:5. That means I can say that Hitesh is to Ronnie. Okay, this 40 minus X is to 60 minus X. So this ratio will be how much? 3:5. So from this I can find out the value of X by cross multiplication. So if I cross multiply, okay, 5 into 40 is 200 minus 5 into X is 5X will be equal to 3 into 60 is 180 minus 3 into X is thrice X. So from this equation what I get? 5X minus thrice X is twice X and 200 minus 180 is 20. So if twice X is 20, X will be how many years? 10 years. That means 10 years ago the ratio of their ages was 3:5. So the correct answer of this question number 2 is option number B, which is 10 years. 10 years ago the ratio was 3:5. Now students, I have used the basic method in this question. That means I have used X here to solve this particular questions. Now if you use X here, the problem is that you need to solve this equation. Okay, only then you will get the answer of this question. Now how to solve such questions without using X? In how many different methods you can solve this same question? So let us see that first. Okay, so if I see this, okay, let me first find, what I will find here is that ratio of their ages, present ages, okay, ratio of their present ages. So Hitesh's age is 40 years, Ronnie's age is 60 years, isn't it? The present ratio is how much? 2:3. So the present ratio is 2:3, okay. How many years ago, that means how many years before the ages was how much? 3:5. That means Hitesh and Ronnie's present ratio is 2:3. Okay, how many years ago? Suppose in the past, how many years ago the ratio was how much? 3:5. Now I have discussed such questions in the first part of these ages. Okay, so please do ask the first part to solve such questions. Whenever you are given two ratios at two different point of time, maybe past, present, okay, present, future or past, future, always we know that the difference between the age of two persons should always be the same. Okay, so if I say difference in the past is 2 years as per ratio, isn't it? And the difference in the present is how much? 1 year as per ratio. Now this difference should be same, na? Because at any point of time difference is always the same. Now I need to make these two difference same. Okay, I always need to make these two difference same in the past and present. To make two numbers same, always find their LCM. Okay, the LCM of 2 and 1 is 2. To make this 2, multiply this by 1. And to make this difference 2, multiply this ratio with 2. Okay, so this ratio remains the same between Hitesh and Ronnie. It is already 3:5. Okay, and this ratio becomes how much? 4:6. Now we see that the difference of these ages is same. It is 2, it is also 2. Now when this difference becomes the same, this vertical difference automatically becomes the same. So the gap is 1 year. The gap is 1 year as per ratio. Now this gap is 1 and 1 will represent how much? I have to find out this value. That means how many years ago the ratio was 3:5. Okay. Now we know the present age of Hitesh is 40 years and the present age of Ronnie is 60 years. The present age of Hitesh is 4 as per ratio, isn't it? So if 4 is 40 years then 1 is how many years? 1 is 10 years, na? Or if I use the age of Ronnie, that means 6 years. If 6 is 60 years, then 1 is again 10 years. So you can do in this way without using x, because you are given two different point of time ratio, in the past, also in the present. The right answer of this question number 2 is option number B, which is 10 years. So next in front of you is the third question of this series, question number 3. It is given that the ratio between half of Amrita's age and 3/4 of the sum of the age of her two children is 2:1. After 4 years, her age will be twice the sum of the ages of her two children. What is Amrita's present age? Okay. Now see, again you are given two ratios in this question. One ratio is the present, okay, and other ratio is after 4 years. That means in the future. Okay. Now, the ratio between half of Amrita's age, okay, half of Amrita's age, that means Amrita age divided by 2 is to 3/4 of the sum of the ages of her two children. That means 3/4 into sum of the age of her two children. Okay, let me take the two children's name as B and C. So 3/4 of B plus C. And this ratio is given to be how much? 2:1. Now, if I simplify this ratio, see what I will get here. So what I need to do is that to convert this ratio to integer, take the LCM of 2 and 4. So the LCM of 2 and 4 is how much? 4. So multiply these two ratios, these two terms with 4. So if I multiply this term with 4, I get what? Twice A. Okay. And if I multiply this term with 4, I get what? 3 into B plus C. And this ratio is given to be how much? 2:1. Okay. Now, twice A divided by 3 into B plus C. Okay. This ratio is how much? 2:1. Isn't it? So this 2 and 2 will be cancelled out. And from here, I will get what ratio? A is to B plus C. So A is to B plus C. Okay. A is to B plus C becomes how much? 3:1. So this is the present ratio of the ages of A and B plus C. This is Amrita's age is to the sum of the ages of her two children. Okay. A is to B plus C, 3:1. Next, one more ratio is given, which is after 4 years. The ratio will be how much? 2:1, because it is given that her age will be twice the sum of the age of her two children. So, I have obtained two ratios, one in present and one in the future after 4 years. Okay, the present ratio is 3:1. So, see how after this what to do. Okay, after this how to solve this particular question. So, A is to B plus C ratio in the present, 0 means the present ratio. I have got how much? 3:1, isn't it? And after 4 years in the future, okay, after 4 years plus 4, this ratio is how much? 2:1 as per this question. Now we know, I have discussed in the topic of ratio only, okay, whenever you are given two ratios and their gap is given, this gap for Amrita, okay, this gap for Amrita from present to the future is how many years? 4 years. But this gap for the two children's sum, okay, sum of the age of her two children becomes how much? 4 plus 4 is how many years? 8 years. Because there are two children here, okay, B plus C. And for two children, the sum will be increased by how many years? Plus 4 plus 4, that is plus 8 years. So whenever you know two ratios and their gap is given, this gap is 4 years for Amrita, isn't it? And this gap is 8 years for B plus C. Okay, sum of the age of her two children. You can always apply cross product method. Okay, cross multiply in this way. 3 into 1 is 3, 2 into 1 is 2. Then always you have to subtract larger minus smaller. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, 1 will represent, now multiply this portion. Okay, multiply this portion now. 2 into 8 is 16, 4 into 1 is 4. So 16 minus 4 is 12 years. So 1 will represent 12 years. If 1 represents 12 years, it is asked to find out Amrita's present age. So Amrita's present age is how much? 3 years as per ratio, isn't it? So if 1 is representing 12 years, then 3 will represent how much? 12 into 3, which is 36 years. Okay, the right answer of this question number 3 is option number B, which is 36 years. So this question can be done easily by this technique of cross product method. So next in front of you is the question number 4. The ratio of the present age of A to B is 8:5. So it is given the present age of A is to B, okay, which is 8:5. Next it is given the average of the present age of B and C is 35 years. Now, whenever you know the average of any numbers, okay, always you need to find out the sum of these numbers, because we know the formula for average is sum of all the observations divided by number of observations. This is the basic formula to find the average of some numbers. Sum of all the observations by number of observations. So to find out the sum of any numbers, the formula becomes how much? Average into n. Okay, average into n. So whenever you are given average of some numbers, always you need to find out the sum. Formula is average into n. Now, average of the present age of B and C is 35 years. So sum of the age of B plus C, sum equal to how much? Average into n. So average is 35, isn't it? N is 2, because there are 2 persons, no? So 35 into 2 becomes how much? 70 years. Next it is given, if 5 years ago, in the past 5 years ago, the sum of the ages of A and B is 55 years. Now see, already you know a ratio which is A is to B. This was the present ratio, isn't it? But the sum is given in the past, that is 5 years ago. So depending on this ratio, since the ratio is in the present, you need to convert this sum also to the present. That means you need to find out from here the present sum of A plus B. Okay, the present sum of A plus B, which becomes how much? If 55 was the age, sum of their ages 5 years ago, that means in the present I need to plus 55. Okay, 55 plus, because we are moving from past to present. Okay, so 55 plus how much? 55 plus 10, because there are 2 persons, na, A and B. So 1 person age will increase by 5 years and 2 persons ages will increase by how many years? 10 years. So 55 plus 10 becomes how many years? 65 years. So now A is to B is 8:5. Okay, A plus B is 65 years. So A plus B is how much? 13 as per ratio. And in the question is given to be how much? 65 years. So 13 represents 65 years. If 13 is 65 years, 1 is how many years? 5 years. 13 5 is 65, isn't it? So 1 is 5 years. If 1 represents 5 years, I can find out the age of A and the age of B. So A's age is 8 years as per ratio. So if 1 is 5 years, then 8 will be how much? 8 into 5, which is how many years? 40 years. So this is the age of A. Okay. And the age of B is 5 years as per ratio, isn't it? So 5 will represent 5 into 5, which is how many years? 25 years. So 5 into 5 is 25 years. So this is the age of B. Now it is asked to find out difference between the present age of A and C. Okay, difference between the present age of A and C. So A's age is 40 years, isn't it? Now I have to find out the age of C from this condition. B plus C is 70 years. And out of this, B's age is 25 years. Okay, so C's age will be how much? C's age becomes 70 minus 25 years. So 70 minus 25 is how much? 45 years. So this is the present age of C. So A's age is 40 years. C's age is 45 years. The difference between the age of A and C is how many years? 5 years, which is option number 2. It is 5 years. Okay. So this was the fourth question, question number 4. So students, next we'll discuss is the fifth question, question number 5. The ratio of the present age of A to B is 4:13. Now see, this question is a very important question for any examination. Okay, the importance of this question is that from where to start this type of question. Okay, the present age of A and B ratio is how much? 4:13. So A is to B is given to be 4:13. Next, C is 15 years older to B. Okay, C is 15 years older to B. That means C's age will be B plus 15 years. Because C is 15 years older to B. If C's age after 8 years will be 75 years. So this is the starting point. Okay, this is the starting point. Whoever person's age is given, start the question from that point. Okay, so if C's age after 8 years is 75 years, then I can find out the present age of C. No? I can find out the present age of C. Okay, 75 minus 8. So 75 minus 8 is how many years? 67 years. So 75 minus 8 is 67 years. So this is the present age of C, because it is given that C's age after 8 years will be how many years? 75 years. So the C present age is how much? 75 minus 8, which is 67 years. Now start from the age of C and try to form a link. That means you just need to see whose age depends upon the age of C. It is given that C is 15 years elder to B. That means can I say B is 15 years younger to C? Isn't it? B is 15 years younger to C. So B's age can be found from this C's age. So 67 minus 15 is how many years? 52 years. Already I know a ratio of A is to B. That means A depends upon B or B depends upon A. So B's age is 13 as per ratio, and this value is how many years? 52 years. So if 13 represents 52 years, then 1 represents 4 years, isn't it? If 1 represents 4 years, I can find out the age of A. So 4 into 4, so the age of A is how many years? 16 years. So I have found out the age of A, B and C. Okay. Next it is asked to find present age of A's mother, who is 30 years older than A. Okay. A's mother is 30 years older than A. So if A's age is 16 years, mother's age is how much? 16 plus 30 years, isn't it? It is how many years? 46 years. Okay. So important is from which point to start such questions. So whoever person's age is given, okay, whoever person's age is given, start the question from that point and then try to form a link. From C's age, I can find out B's age. From B's age, I can find out the age of A, and from the age of A, I can find out the age of her mother. Okay. So right answer of this question number 5 is option number A, which is 46 years. So students, let us discuss the next question here. Question number 6. Now this is a different pattern of question where you need to apply the basic method. Okay, you need to apply the basic method, that is using X. Already I have discussed such question in the first part of these ages. Okay, so do ask the first part to solve this particular question. Okay, person was asked to state his age in years. His reply was what? Take my age 3 years hence. Okay, multiply it by 3 and then subtract 3 times my age 3 years ago, and you will know how old I am. That means here only person's age is unknown. So let me take the present age of this person is X years. Okay, present age is suppose X years. Now take my age 3 years hence. So after 3 years, his age becomes how much? X plus 3 years. Multiply it by 3. Okay, let me multiply this age by 3. And then subtract 3 times my age 3 years ago. That means subtract from this what? 3 times of his age 3 years ago. So first of all, his age 3 years ago is how much? X minus 3. Isn't it? And 3 times of this is how much? 3 into X minus 3. So this value minus this value. Okay. First of all, I have multiplied. I have taken his age 3 years hence. Multiplied this by 3. And then subtracted 3 times his age 3 years ago. And what happens, you will know how old I am. That means this will be equal to his age, which is x years. So try to form the statement in this way, okay, in such type of questions. You have to use x only in such type of particular questions. So if I solve this equation, what I see here, it is thrice x plus 9, okay, minus thrice x plus 9 is x. So this will be cancelled out, isn't it? So x will be how much? 9 plus 9, which is 18 years. So the right answer of this question number 6 is option number A, which is 18 years. So such questions can be done only by using the basic concept, which is using x. Okay. So next in front of you is the question number 7. Again a different pattern of question based on the topic of ages. So Q is as much younger than R as he is older than T. If sum of the age of R and T is 50 years, what is definitely the difference between the R and Q's age? That means it is asked to find what difference between the age of R and Q. Now, Q is as much younger than R as he is older than T. Okay, what does this sentence mean? Q is as much younger than R. That means difference of the age of Q and R is same as he is older than T. That means Q minus T. Okay, out of Q and R, Q is younger. Okay, and out of Q and T, Q is elder. Now it means that the difference between the age of Q and R is same as the difference between the ages of Q and T, because it is given that Q is as much younger than R as he is older than T. That means out of Q and R is elder, na? So R minus Q. Okay, R minus Q. So Q is as much younger than R as he is elder than T. So this is the given statement in the first sentence. Okay, difference between the age of Q and R is same as the difference between the ages of Q and T. So if I simplify this expression or the equation, what I get, R plus T becomes what? Q plus Q, which is twice Q. Sum of the age of R and T is 50 years. Okay, let me put 50 here. So if 50 is equal to twice Q, then Q's age will be how many years? 50 by 2, which is 25 years. So this is the age of Q. I have obtained this age of Q from these two given conditions. Okay, it is asked to find what? Difference between R and Q's age. Okay, difference between the age of R and Q. Now, out of R and Q, R is elder, Q is younger, no? So it is asked to find what? R minus Q. But if I see this question carefully, there is no sufficient data in this question to find out the age of R. See, already I have found out what? The age of Q, no? Already I have found out the age of Q, no doubt. But in this question, there is no sufficient data to find out the age of R, because I have used these two conditions to find out the age of Q, which is 25 years. But it is asked to find something else only, no? It is asked to find what? R minus Q. Okay, so this age of R is not possible to find from this given data. So right answer of this question number 7 is data is inadequate, option number D. So students, let's discuss the question number 8. Again a different pattern of question in a topic of ages. Okay, it is given that Aisha's father was 38 years of age when she was born, and her mother was 36 years old when her brother 4 years younger to her was born. Now this question you will see carefully that there is no any ratio, or you don't need to solve any equation, okay, in such particular question. So such kind of question are very important for some mains level examination, okay, particularly for some mains level examination, also for any state level plus APSC examination. Okay, it is given that Aisha's father was 38 years of age. So Aisha's father's age was 38 years of age. Okay, when her age was 38 years, when she was born, that means when Aisha was born. While her mother was 36 years old when her brother 4 years younger to her was born. Okay, so her mother was 36 years of age when her brother was born, okay, when her brother was born, and is given that her brother is 4 years younger to her. That means Aisha is 4 years elder than her brother. That means Aisha's age minus brother's age is 4 years. Okay. Now, it is asked to find what difference between the ages of her parents. That means it is asked to find difference between the age of father and her mother. Now, her brother is 4 years younger to Aisha, or Aisha is 4 years elder to her brother. Isn't it? Aisha is 4 years elder to her brother. That means when her brother was born, so can I say that at that point Aisha's age was 4 years, no? Isn't it? Aisha's age was 4 years because it is given that her brother is 4 years younger to Aisha, or Aisha is 4 years elder to her brother. So when her brother was born, Aisha's age was 4 years. Okay. Now let me see only father and mother, because it is asked to find the age of difference of the age of father and her mother. When Aisha was born, father's age was 38 years. When Aisha's age becomes 4 years, then mother's age is 36 years. Now, when Aisha's age becomes 4 years, then I need to find what? The age of her father. When Aisha was born, father's age was 38 years. So, when Aisha's age becomes 4 years, father's age will again increase by 4 years. No? So, 38 plus 4 is how many years? 42 years. So, 38 plus 4 is 42 years. So, when brother is born, Aisha's age is 4 years, mother's age is 36 years, and father's age is 42 years. It is asked to find difference of the age of father and her mother. So, father's age 42 minus mother's age 36 is how many years? 6 years, which is option number C. Okay. So, you can see clearly that no any ratio, no any equation is involved in this question. It is somewhat, you can say, logical type of question. So, important, very important for some mains level question. Okay. So, this was the question number 8. So, next we will discuss is the next question, which is question number 9. So, a man's age is 150% of what it was 10 years ago, but 75% of what it will be after 10 years. Okay, it is given 3 point of time here. Present, 10 years ago, in the past, and 10 years hence in the future. Now, what I will get from such questions? Okay, a man's age is 150% of what it was 10 years ago. Now, see, 150% means what? 150 by 100, isn't it? So, if I cancel out the common numbers here, 5 3s are 15, 5 2s are 10. So, it becomes how much? 3 by 2. So, a man's age is 3 by 2 of what it was 10 years ago. That means this is a ratio. Okay, is what ratio? If his age 10 years ago was 2 years, then his present age is 3 years. Okay, because it is given, it is 150% or 3 by 2 of what it was 10 years ago. So if his present age is 3 years, then his age 10 years ago was 2 years. Okay, so let me take the present age of this man is X. So it is what ratio? X 10 years ago is to X present. Okay. Minus 10 means 10 years ago and 0 means the present. This ratio between 10 years ago's age and the present age of this man is how much? 2:3. Next, 75%. Okay, man's age is 75% of what it will be after 10 years. That means in the future. Now, you should know 75% means 3 by 4. Means 75 by 100, it becomes how much? 3 by 4. So, a man's age is 3 by 4 of what? It will be after 10 years. That means, again, I will get a ratio only from this sentence. If his age after 10 years becomes 4 years, then his present age is 3 years. Okay. So, again, I will get what ratio? His age 10 years after is to his age present. Okay. So, if his age in the present is 3 years, then his age after 10 years will be how many years? 4 years. Now, I have got two ratios. Okay. Now see, whenever you get two or more ratios, your first aim is to see the common part always, as I have discussed already in the topic of ratio. Okay, suppose A is to B, A is to C, common is A, isn't it? So in these two ratios, the common is what? The present age, isn't it? Present age of X is 3 years as per ratio. Also here, the present age of X is 3 years again as per ratio. Okay, so already the present age is same. Na? I don't need to make this present age same. So if I mix these two ratios, okay, if I mix A is to B and suppose B is to A, what ratio I'll get? 10 years ago is to after 10 years is to present age. Okay, so before 10 years his age was 2 as per ratio. After 10 years his age becomes how much? 4 as per ratio. And the present age of this person is how many years? 3 years. Okay, now it is asked to find out his present age. Okay, now see this gap, from present to future, this gap is how many years? 10 years. Na? But in ratio, this gap is how many years? 1 year as per ratio, from 3 to 4. So this one gap will represent 10 years in actual. Okay. Again, I can also find out this answer if I take present age and his age before 10 years. So this gap from present to before 10 years is again how many years? 10 years. Okay. Again this gap is 1 year as per ratio. So this 1 will again represent how many years? 10 years. So if 1 is 10 years, it is asked to find out his present age. Okay. So its present age is how much? As per ratio 3. Na? So 3 becomes how many years? 3 into 10, which is 30 years. So right answer of this question number 9 is option number B, which is 30 years. Okay. So this was a question of ratio. Okay. You have got two ratios. You need to make the common part same. Already here the common number is same. Okay. It is easy to find out in such questions. So students, let's discuss the next question here. Question number 10. Okay. A very important question based on two concepts. Average plus ages concept. So 5 years ago, the average age of a family which consists of 4 members was 40 years. Okay. If 2 people are added in the family, still the average age remains the same. That means previously there was how many members? 4 members in the family. Okay. Now 2 members are added in the family and the average age of the family today is the same as it was in the before. That means before 5 years. Now let me write down the given conditions first. Okay. 5 years ago, the average age was 40 years. Before 5 years. Okay. 5 years ago, that means in the past, 5 years ago, the average of 4 members, isn't it? The average of 4 members was how many years? 40 years. I have already told you before in the previous question of average, okay, whenever you are given average, always need to find out the sum of the observation. Okay, sum can be found out using average into n. So 5 years ago, average of 4 was 40 years. Okay, if 2 people are added in a family, okay, now what happens? In the present, there are 2 people more. That means in the present, there is how many people now? 6 people, because 2 people are in a family. But still the average age remains the same. That means if before the average was 40 years, so the present average also becomes 40 years. But this is the average of how many persons? 6 persons, because 2 persons are added in the family. Okay, they are added in the family. Average age is the same, which is 40 years again, as it was 5 years ago. Now see, 5 years ago average of 4 was 40 years. Present average of 6 is 40 years, isn't it? So if I try to find out 5 years ago average is 40 years, so in the present average of 4 is how many years? 40 plus 5, which is how many years? 45 years. So present average of 4 is 45 years. Okay, and the present average of 6 is 40 years in the present. From average, always your aim is to find out the sum. Okay, sum of the observations. If the present average of 4 is 45 years, then I can find out the present sum of 4. No? Present sum of 4 members. To find out sum, formula is what? Average into n. So average is 45, n is 4. So 45 into 4 becomes how many years?